Did you first grow curious about the paranormal? Dare you dig deeper? You are listening to House of Asher.
Hello, salutations, and welcome from the House of Asher. I am your host, Steve Asher. It's been a minute. Lots has happened. All kinds of stuff has happened. My gosh, if this pandemic has taught us anything, entropy is a matter of course. It will happen. It is destined to happen. You either move with it or you get ran over with it. It's like a tide. You learn to ride it or you drown. And I'm not trying to be overly whatever about that, dramatic or whatever, but it is. I'm using an overly probably used term, but it is the new normal. And hopefully it will not stay this way. Hopefully we'll move back to some semblance of normality and the life we knew before. And if not, we will learn to cope and to grow and embrace whatever is around that corner for us. We're sort of like we're in a deep, dark cave in so many ways right now, which leaves us all anxious and uncomfortable and doubting and all those different things. But it also can help us all become more resilient and positive and hopeful. You can find different things in adversity, and hopefully it will be a wonderful, wonderful, bright future for everybody. Everybody gets ice cream, okay? So, now that has been touched on, I probably should mention you may be hearing this Paranormal UK Radio. They're the guys that carry this worldwide from pole to pole and around the equator. God bless you guys. You're the greatest. You're the swellest. And as you know, I've got a really crazy schedule. Thank you so much for continuing to support the show and the kind words. I also would say check out Spotify, anything, iHeart, all those different ones, SoundCloud, all those you can find should have the House of Asher podcast on it. You may very well be listening to this on YouTube. There is a YouTube channel. If you look for House of Asher podcast, there is going to be this show and all the other shows that I have uploaded available for listening and downloading for free. I don't ever charge for my show. I always say it's free and it's darn worth the price. But I do want to say, please, shameless plug, check out SteveEAsher.com. That's all lowercase and together. It's Steve with two E's at the end, Asher.com. And you will find out not just about this podcast, but about books that I have, which I'm getting a smattering of books out there. I've also got the second part of the Kentucky Counties book coming out. Isn't that groovy? I'm digging it. I have scoured, my gosh, libraries, bothering all kinds of people. Historians probably hate me from one point of the state to the next. Law enforcement, folklorists, anybody that will talk to me. I've really just really pushed to get really good stories, especially for this second part of the Curious Counties from Kentucky books. And it should hopefully be out probably around October. It's when I usually like to do it because that's when people dig this kind of thing. And it's not all scary stuff. A lot of it is just straight up historical stuff. Weird geological formations, strange findings, weird petroglyphs, all kinds of odd stuff. Folktale, all kinds of, like I said, curiosities. Just straight over curiosity. It touches on everything. It's got something for everybody. Anyway, enough of that. I'd mentioned this. We're all in sort of a cave of sorts. And that's kind of what I'm touching on. You know I love caves. You know I am I don't know what you call that. Is that a cave fetish? Is it? I don't know what it is. It's something primordial. It's something that draws me hardcore into it. And it's something that I don't see going away. I'm 51 at this point, and I do not see that passing. As some of you guys know, being a local folklorist and whatnot, I know a lot about haunted valleys, haunted structures, haunted trees, witches, all kinds of stuff. And one of the ones that really always pulled me in first was weird stories about caves, especially Mammoth Cave. Um, Even if you're not from Kentucky, and whatever, you have probably heard of Mammoth Cave. It's huge, it's massive, and moreover, it's been turned into a very large, very, very profitable park. And this has been happening for a very long time. And any of you guys that went there, as you know, the rangers and whatnot are always very, very giving, and always want to really starcase or showcase, sorry, showcase the star of it, which is the cave itself. There's so many interesting things in it, moreover than just stalactites, and stalagmites. I said stalagmites. Okay, I know. Anyway, but caves by nature are creepy. You know what I'm saying? They are creepy, and a lot of weird stuff happens in the dark. I mean, there's a lot of, we talk about coming out of the caves as primordial men, and becoming, Homo sapiens sapiens, and doing all the neato stuff that we do and all the crazy stuff that we do. But there's some situations that, again, tie in with the way I could see my life going. I've always had this weird fear. I love cases, but I'm scared of them. To quote James T. Kirk, I knew I would always die alone. And I used this quote 100 times. I don't know if that's true or not, but being a young goth, I thought, well, yeah, that probably tracks. But there was another young guy. His name was Collins, and this guy, he very much like myself, has always had a really deep fascination and obsession with all the caves that lay around central Kentucky and throughout the state, or the Commonwealth, I should say. He was always trying to look for new ones in different veins and different, what they call fingers, of various caves. And it's a thing that, again, Mammoth Cave has attracted so many people, like by the thousands, since like the early 19th century. And it's one of these things that so many people did try to investigate every little corner, every little seam. And it's a thing that, for whatever. Maybe they're trying to find proof of ancient races living there. Maybe they're trying to find some kind of, who knows? Maybe they'll find some hidden gold from conquistadors or something that come through there before. I don't know. But it's a thing where sometimes that does not work for you. What happens sometimes is that people, through their own hubris, do not really, the old term of armchair quarterback, there's an element of that. And this young man had found places. He had found the Crystal Cave, okay? Although not a massive area, it was gorgeous, and it's much smaller than Mammoth, and a whole lot harder for tourists to get to, but it made him some good money. And it's one of these things where he kept searching. He wanted more of that. And it was one of these things that finally he went into investigating Mammoth Cave. Now, this guy was, I believe, 38 years old. And it was a Friday in the middle of January. I think it was January 1925. Now, this guy he wasn't an old man, but he was not a kid by any stretch of the imagination. He was 37, which, that's in this part of the world when you do a lot of physical work and things like that, and just, life expectancy isn't far. But he had entered into an area that would be ended up being known as Sand Cave, and this was more or less a almost like a beaver tunnel or something. It was just so there was none of the trappings of just walk in, even walking over on your feet. This is a crawl across your belly like a I don't know what, just a muddy, nasty, damp, slippery mess. And it was one of these things where it connected passageways under there uh, with a series of limestone, rock, and gravel. So what ended up happening was the more and more it went, the more twisted it got. And sadly, it was one of these things. His lamp, he had carried a lamp back in the those days. We didn't have they did not have the modern trappings that we have now. He was in there for a while, and his light went out. It happens. So this guy is trying to get through a narrow area. There's a spot called, I think, and please leave in the comments, especially if you're looking at Facebook. I believe it's either Fat Man's Peril or something to that. It probably has a more politically correct, like calorically challenged persons. I don't know. Trigger crack or something. I don't know. But anyway, he was trying to get through this area, and with his hands more or less to the side, there was a rock, and it fell. This pinned him. It just straight up pinned him. I think it was his left foot, and it wasn't even that it was huge. But from what I understand, it was more or less the size and shape of like a country ham, like one you would get at Thanksgiving or Christmas or something like that. To serve the whole family, like a good size, like big country salted ham. Thing couldn't have weighed more than 30, 40 pounds, but it was just big enough and just heavy enough to pin him down, and he's not going anywhere. This guy, as anyone would, flips out. He straight flips out. He's screaming, soaking wet, begging for help. In total darkness, his voice echoes throughout the darkness. And this guy was there for a while. Sometimes people, if you're lucky enough to be in a passage that's well traveled somewhere, say like Mammoth Cave, it's generally now you're not going to be allowed to go down these ways. You're not going to even have access because of what happens later in this story. And that's the thing. Pretty much anything I've learned that is a no-no, especially connected with anything state, park, whatever, it's because it's retroactive. It's not proactive. It's a thing of going, or not retroactive, but it's not proactive. It's going to be a thing. It's going to be an afterthought. Like, well, like the coffee. Well, maybe we should put it's hot. Because sometimes people pour hot stuff on them because they're just not thinking. Okay, this is hot. Straws are let's try it again. I got stars in the brain. Straws can poke you in the eye. Don't poke them in your eye. I don't know why you got to tell people that, but apparently you do. Long story short, he was screwed. He was stuck for, as I understand it, almost a full 24 hours in the water, unable to move, getting wetter, getting colder, getting more disoriented. And you have to think what was going on. What was popping through this guy's head? What if I think about it, of course, it would be my family. Not, man, I wish I would have taken that trip to Aruba, whatever. It's, I will not see my children grow up. I will not see grandchildren. They may not even find me. The odds of them coming across me are pretty slim. I mean, you hear about it all the time. Like the I think, is it Paul Pallades, the guy that did like the 911 stuff. People can disappear in America really easy. People think, well, I live in a large city and everybody knows me here, and no, that is sort of a false security we give ourselves, and I think we all have it. I'm sure I have it to a point, and that's the worst thing about doing research and about things like Mammoth Cave. It's got such a body count, such a huge body count, and I'm not even talking about people that have went missing in trails and stuff above ground. I'm talking about just underground. And what is insane? Again, he kept screaming, begging for help, just pleading, I'm sure, to God to send some miracle to him. Well, it took almost 24 hours. He was found. But at that point, everything just went insane. Okay? Rescuers, some of them that were, knowledgeable. Some of them were just people wanting to help. Ran in. Okay? They did everything they could to try to get Collins out of this predicament. It lasted like 2 weeks. I'm talking friends, local law enforcement, college students, National Guard, miners, stonecutters, everybody, professors, physicians, and even reporters tried to help this young man out. In fact, there was a writer who actually had won a Pulitzer Prize in 1926 about this. It became that big. It was that huge. Some said, "Hey, we'll use a fireman's lift." Some said, "Use a torch, burn away around the rock," which probably would have tore him all to pieces. Even Vaseline, car jacks. Unfortunately, none of this helped, and more or less, it just made more people go at each other. There was such a carnival atmosphere going on. I'm talking tens of thousands. I'm talking, when I say a circus atmosphere, I'm talking they were selling elixirs and hamburgers and balloons and all this kind of stuff. It truly was a media circus, and I don't use that as a pun. Story after story, people after people attempted to not only free the man or be the one who frees the man, but also pushing these stories, and it made world news. Unfortunately, after another 5 days of this, there were additional collapses in that small cave. This left any kind of travel within the area to the man impossible. Moreover, it cut any sort of contact between Collins and anybody on the surface, which probably had drove this man mad. I know it would have me. to kind of give him a little food, give him a little water. But there was no way. There was no way. Those that did attempt to try to get in there, moving over the fresh rocks, paid for it in skin, in blood. It was just like trying to walk through razors or climb through razors. They attempted to build a shaft, which is not uncommon. It's sort of a Hail Mary, if you will, for this kind of situation. If it's possible to build a shaft just to the side of the cave and burrow in whereabouts they guesstimate the young man was, that's what they're going to do. Well, this, as you can expect, didn't have a happy ending. Not everything has it. Unfortunately, by the time that they actually got to Collins, he was dead. Now, this was February 17th. And this is a situation where, man, I'm really claustrophobic. Like, mighty claustrophobic. And this and the unlikely possibility of being trapped, like buried alive, in a coffin or whatever, or I guess a casket. That is just nightmare fuel for me, and I think it's probably true of a lot of people. That's another thing I want to hear in comments. If you would go to House of Asher podcast on, excuse me, on YouTube, leave me your stories. Especially if you're claustrophobic, I understand that triggers a lot of people, and hopefully the story did not. But I want to hear from you, and I want to hear from different things that scare you guys. The thing is that this was not the last of what I would call Collins' story. Because as the years have went on, and we've moved into what you want to call the modern era, this story has become sort of a legend. In fact, a legend they tried to play down. Who wants to go, okay, come to Mammoth Cave? You can get stuck and starve to death. Nobody, right? Well, here it is. You would not believe this because it was a situation that people would report down in areas adjacent to the now verboten, whatever, for our German listeners, area of Mammoth Cave. Reports of an emaciated man with vacant eyes standing in the shadows just enough that you cannot make out all his features except the gaunt face, glowing eyes, and cadaver-like condition of his form. Now, as far as I know, this body of this, well, foolhardy, but you still have to give him credit for being brave and trying it, young guy, has not been recovered. Now, if I'm wrong, please leave comments about this. So, could you see that possibly this would cause a haunting? This type of hellish, torturous, sad ending could bring along a sight a type of psychic, just a psychic maelstrom that, again, limestone. If everybody knows anything about quartz, with limestone, that acts like a radio transmitter. Any of you guys that are old enough, a little bit long in the tooth like myself, remember quartz transmitters and stuff in radios. They hold energy. And a lot of paranormal researchers believe that there is, in a lot of times of haunting situations, you're either near quartz and or running water or ley lines or something. And then again, I'm a researcher. I am not. I have no degree in paranormal psychology or anything of that nature. I am a self-taught guy. But there's a lot of evidence that shows that energies can be held in certain situations, can give off, different sort of weird EMF fields. So it leads you to wonder, was this gaunt visage that this man wore due to his traumatic ending? And I can't help but think that's probably true. I wouldn't want to tell the family that. Obviously, nobody wants to hear that. And I know most people think when you pass, you go to some sort of reward or whatever on the other side. But what if you didn't realize you were dead? What if you were in such a panic and near madness? Your mind would not leave your body. It would not leave the spot of your death. Well, then you may end up with a situation like this. And Mammoth Cave is full of this stuff. This is just one story. It is so very strange. You would have, moreover than this, you would have reports of people getting married in the caves, doing things like that. Would maybe some of that energy itself make maybe a looping haunting of a very positive thing? You don't always hear that. Sometimes you'll hear a story where there's a kid playing on a swing set or something like that, and maybe that was the best part of that child's life. And if so, maybe that's one of the more positive things in the world. Not all ghostly encounters, I think, are tragic and horrible and dark and a thing that we should kind of approach with trepidation. I think that sometimes it's just snapshots of what we got going on and who we were, and maybe who we wanted to be, the best version of us that we could put out. I would like to think that's possible. I'd like to think that is something that it's almost like I said before, a snapshot, a family movie of something from a good summer vacation or something like that. So don't let me scare you off about Mammoth Cave, folks. Go out there and check it out, and do leave some stories or whatever in the comments. As always, I love you guys. Sorry it's been a minute since we've had this on. There's been lots and lots going on in my personal life and moving and this and that. I love you guys so much. Thank you for doing this and hanging out, and as always, being here for the ride. But that being said, I will say, if it's sunny where you're at, go out there and enjoy all that sunshine and good times. Get some sun on your face. But as the sun sets behind the pines and the shadows grow long, make sure to check in your closet, beneath your bed, down that dark hallway, maybe on the corner of your property where that creepy cave is at. Did you see something moving in there? Maybe you didn't, but don't be afraid, because there's learning in fear. We have to push past it and become the best selves that we can. But until next time, everyone, this is Steve Asher saying I love you, and stay scared.